Hello, sports fans. It's me, Sportsman Z, Bob Zolke, and I'm here today with another card and dice game for you. Today, it's going to be an American League matchup of the 1987 World Champion Minnesota Twins visiting the 1967 lost the World Series to the Cardinals Boston Red Sox. Since it's 1987, you know we're using those ugly 1987 cards that Strat only had for 1 year. Here are my packets for the teams that I store them in, and I am going to be, as it is my usual MO, I am going to be using the elementary side of the cards. I just prefer to do that, and it's easier and it's quicker, and I feel like it all comes out in the wash anyway, you know. So we're going to proceed with that. The Twins, I think I said, are visiting the Red Sox. We will be using the DH, even though in 1967 they did not use a DH. And so let's get started with our lineups. First, for the visiting Twins, you've got Dan Gladden, the center fielder, batting first. Second, you have Kent Herbeck, the first baseman, batting second for the Twins. Batting in the third spot, we have Kirby Union Gap Puckett in center field, and he was a Gold Glove quality center fielder that year. Batting in the cleanup spot, we got Tom Brunansky, the right fielder. Batting fifth, we have Randy Bush, who will be the DH today. Batting after him is Gary Gaetti, the third baseman. After him will be Greg Gagne, the shortstop. Batting after him will be Timmy Laudner, the catcher. And batting in the last spot will be Lombardozzi, the second baseman for the Twins. So that's the Twins lineup. On the mound today, because I really like this guy, is Bert Blyleven, who was 15-12 that season for the Twins. And he had what, a 401 earned run average. And now for the home team, the 1967 Boston Red Sox, batting leadoff will be Reggie Smith, the center fielder. Batting second will be Canigliaro, the right fielder. Batting third, look at that card, Yaz. Carl Yastrzemski playing left field and batting third. Batting in the cleanup spot will be George Scott, the first baseman. Batting fifth, the DH, Ken Hawk Harrelson. As a White Sox fan, I am very familiar with Hawk. He was probably a better player than he was an announcer, though, to be honest with you. Then we have Rico Petrocelli, the shortstop. Batting next is Joey Foy, the third baseman. Batting after him will be Elston Howard, the catcher. And then batting after him and in the ninth spot will be Jerry Adair, the second baseman. So both teams have their second baseman batting ninth and their DH batting fifth. So without further ado, we will get into the game. And we have Dan Gladden coming in against... and the pitcher, I forgot to announce this. The pitcher for the Red Sox will be Gary Bell. And anybody who's read Ball 4, Gary Bell is a beautiful man. I love that line. That's one of my favorite lines from the book. But anyway, because of that, I love Gary Bell, so that he's going to be pitching for the 67 Red Sox. So here we go. We've got Dan Gladden facing Bell, and he gets a 3-5, which is a walk. So Gladden's aboard with the walk. Gary Bell allowing the walk. He's a stealing A, which I believe is a 1. What is that? A 1 to 15? It is a 1 to 15. Laudner's a -4, so it's a 1 to 11. So he'll hold for the moment, at least. And that brings up Kent Herbeck. And he gets a 6-7. And that's a fly ball center field B, 1 away. So Herbeck flies out to 9. Or no, wait. Fly ball center field, so fly out to 8. There is 1 away. And that brings up Kirby Puckett, and he'll bat, and that's a 5-9, which is a home run 1 to 18 or a double for Puckett, and he gets a 19. So that's a double, and it drives in Gladden. So Gladden comes all the way around. That's a hit allowed and an earned run. And now we have Puckett at second with Tom Brunansky up. And he gets a 4-6, and that's a strikeout. So Bruno with the K, and Bell with a K on his record. And that brings up Randy Bush. And he gets a 110, which is a pop out to second base. So that's it for the Twins. They get 1 run. And now that brings up the Red Sox and Reggie Smith. And he gets a 2-7, which is a walk. So both leadoff batters lead off the game with walks, and he is a stealing B, so he'll hold for the second, for the moment at least. Tony Conigliaro is up, and he gets a 6-6 on Blyleven. That's a walk. So Blyleven walks the first 2 batters. And that brings up Karol Yastrzemski. And he gets a 6-5, and that's a walk. So Blyleven has walked the bases loaded to start off in trouble here, with no outs. And George Scott up. And that's a 4-4, and that is a catcher card X, and the catcher is Tim Laudner, who's a 3. That is a 14-3 at catcher, which is an out, 4 runners hold. So 1 away, so pop out to the catcher. And that brings up Hawk Harrelson. And he gets a 3-7, which is a single 1 to 9. And that is a single with 1 asterisk advance, so he gets a single and an RBI, and that brings in Smith, and Blyleven allows a hit and an earned run, and that brings up Rico Petrocelli, and he gets a 4-12 on Blyleven, which is a second base X, which is a 2, and that's a 6 and a 2 at second, which is an out double play. So they do get out of it after a really rocky start, except they did allow 1 run to tie the score. So let's see, Petrocelli hits into a 6-4-3, And that brings up Gary Gaetti in the second, facing Gary Bell. And he gets a 3-9, and that's a strikeout. Second strikeout of the game for Gary Bell. That brings up Greg Gagne. He gets a 2-3, and that's a shortstop. Ground ball to the shortstop, so he's out. So that's 6-3. And that brings up Timmy Laudner. And that's a 4-8, and that's a walk. So Tim Laudner is walked by Bell with 2 outs. And there goes my 20-sided die. And that brings up Steve Lombardozzi, and he gets a 5-4, and that's a catcher card X. And Elston Howard is a 2 at catcher, and that's a 13-2, is probably an out. It's a pass ball followed by a foul out, so that's it. And so that was 2-3. And the Twins get no runs in the second. And now they have oh, wait a minute. No, that was 2-3 on Lombardozzi for the out. And so Gladden will be up next inning. And Joey Foy is up now for the Red Sox against Blyleven. And he gets a 6-9, which is a double. So Blyleven allows his second hit. Blyleven has been really in trouble here pretty much all day. Elston Howard comes up, and he's got a 3-6, which is a line out to short. So 1 away. Line out to 6. That brings up Jerry Adair. Jerry Adair with a 6-10 on Blyleven, and that's a triple 1-7 double. And that's going to be a double that drives in a run. RBI, run scores, hit allowed, earned run. And that brings up Reggie Smith at the top of the order. And he gets a 3-5, which is a strikeout. And that's Blyleven's first strikeout of the day. And that brings up Tony Conigliaro. And he gets a 6-7, single 1-4. And that's going to be a single, ladies and gentlemen. So we have runners at the corners. And Blyleven really is not fooling anybody today. And that brings up Karl Yastrzemski. And he gets a 4-8, and that's a second base X, and he's a 2. That's a 5 and a 2 is probably an out. And it is. And so he gets out 6-3, but the Red Sox do score another run in the second, and now they lead 2-1. And that brings up Dan Gladden, I believe, yes, at the top of the third to face Gary Bell. He gets a 6-11, and that's the fly ball to right field. The right fielder is a 2. Tony Conigliaro, 17-2 is probably an out. And it is, 1 away. So Gladden flies out to 9. And that brings up Kent Herbeck. He gets a 6-11. That's a fly ball to right field, and he is, as we just established, a 2. And that's a 16, and that's probably an out, and it is. So he flies out to 9, and that is 2 down for Kirby Union Gap Puckett. And he gets a 6-6, which is a pop out to first base. So pop out to 3, and no runs in the third for the Twins. And Brunansky will be up when they come back up again. Yaz made the last out here, so now in the bottom of the third, we're leading off with George Scott for the Red Sox. And he gets a 5-11, and that's a ground ball to the pitcher. He's a 1. 20 and a 1 is select another. 18 and 1, I think, is in select another. And 13 and 1, I believe, is an out, and it is, so 1 away. So George Scott goes 1-3. And that brings up Hawk Harrelson. And he gets a 3-6, which is a walk. So yeah, okay. Oh wait, yeah. Blyleven gets a walk on his record, and that brings up with 1 away and one on Rico Petrocelli. He gets a 4-7, and that's a strikeout. So there's a strikeout for Blyleven. It's nice to see him settle down a little bit at least. And that brings up Joey Foy. And he gets a 5-9, and that's a fly ball center field B. Fly out to 8. And the Red Sox get no runs there, but they still lead 2-1 going to the top of the fourth. And in the top of the fourth, they'll have Tom Brunansky. He gets a 2-7, which is a strikeout. Bruno gets the K. That brings up Randy Bush. He gets a 4-8, which is a walk on Bell. So another walk for Gary Bell. That's his third of the day. Gary Gaetti steps in with 1 on and 1 out, and he gets a 3-7, and that's a strikeout. So that's Bell's 4th strikeout today, and that brings up Greg Gagne. And he gets a 2-6, and he pops out to second base. Pop out to 4. No runs across there for the Twins. And next inning will be Laudner. And right now that brings up Joey Foy. Is it Joey Foy? No, he made the last out. So this is Elston Howard batting against Blyleven in the bottom of the fourth. And he gets a 2-7, and he grounds out to third base, 1 away. So let's see. 5-3. Jerry Adair comes up. He gets a 1-7, and that's a fly ball left field B, so he flies out to 7. And that brings up Reggie Smith, and Reggie Smith gets a ground ball second base plus injury, so Reggie Smith gets a ground ball second base will be 4-3. And now we'll roll for the injury, and he is out for a while. 17 would be 7 games, so we need another center fielder for the Boston Red Sox. And they will go with Jose Tartabull in center field, and he's a center field 2. But the Red Sox got no runs there. We go to the top of the 5th with the Twins up, and they will be bringing up... Oh no, I put that in the wrong place. That's not Tartable there, it's Tartable here. And he is center field too. And now that brings up for the Twins, it brings up, I believe, Laudner in the 5th. Yes. So now we're back on track here. Gotta re-roll that. And that's a 1-9, which is a fly ball B. Laudner had a little power that year. He had 16 home runs and 288 at bats. But anyway, that was a fly ball center field. So he gets a fly out to 8. And that brings up Lombardozzi. He gets a 6-8 on, oh, I gotta go find, 6-8 on Gary Bell is a single. So Lombardozzi with a single. That's only the second hit allowed by Gary Bell, and Lombardozzi is a stealing C, so he'll stay right where he is. That brings up Dan Gladden with a 1-8, and that's a single. And they're only going to advance one base on this. They're going to go station to station. Another hit allowed for Gary Bell. That brings up Kent Herbeck. And he gets a 6-4. And that's a fly ball left field C, which I believe is 2 away, yes. Fly out to 7. And that brings up Puckett with 2 runners on at first and second with 2 out. And he gets a 6-9, which is a ground ball shortstop. And the shortstop for the 67 Red Sox was Petrocelli, and he's a 2. And that's a 4, and that's probably going to be the last out of the inning, and it is. So he got a 6-3, and no runs come across. And that brings up Tony Conigliaro, I believe. Yes, in the bottom of the 5th, with the Red Sox still ahead, 1-0. And he gets a 1-7, and that's a walk. So Conigliaro with the leadoff walk against Blyleven. And I think they will, no, they'll let Blyleven keep going for a little bit here. Carl Yastrzemski's up. No outs, man on. 3-9 is a walk. And now they are going to go get him. Because this is really just a little too much. Much as I do love Blyleven, it's time for him to leave, and he only goes, the book closes on him after 4 innings, because he's pitching in the 5th and he hasn't gotten an out yet. And they are going to bring in, is that right? Yes, Juan Berenguer. So after just 4 innings, Blyleven's day is already over. And that brings up George Scott with 2 on and no out. And a 4-9, and that's a ground ball C. So runners will move to second and third, but there is an out. Ground ball, what was that? 4-9 is second base C. So 4-3. And that brings up Hawk Harrelson. And he gets a 2-9. Hawk Harrelson rips a single that drives in at least a run, and probably that's what it's going to stay at right now. They've got the lead. They don't want to take any chances. Conigliaro scores. Yeah, he's at third. So That's a hit for Berenguer, but it's an earned run on Blyleven. And that brings up Petrocelli. And he gets a 312, which is a line out into a double play. So Berenguer gets a little lucky there and only allows the one run to score. So we go to the top of the sixth, where the Minnesota Twins are up with Bernansky in the sixth, leading off, and he gets a 4-7, and that's a strikeout on Gary Bell's card. So Gary Bell is pitching quite well here. He is really cruising right along. And Randy Bush is up with one out, and 5-6. That is a fly ball, right field beat, 2 away. So Randy Bush flies out to 9 for the second out, and that brings up Gary Gaetti. 2-6 is a ground ball shortstop. So that's a 6-3, and the Twins go harmlessly in the sixth. The Red Sox, clinging to a 3-1 lead, come up in the bottom of the sixth, and they have Joey Foy leading off, and he gets a 1-5, and that's a fly ball center field. So he's out. Fly out to 9. That brings up Elston Howard. And he gets a 4-12, which is a fly ball left field. And the left fielder is a 1, I believe. Let's see. He's a left field. No, he's a 2. Left field 2 is Dan Gladden. 17-2 on the outfield. We check the chart, and that is an out 1. So he flies out to 7. And that brings up Jerry Adair. With 2 outs and nobody on, he gets a 6-3 on Berenguer's cart, which is a first base X. That's Herbeck. He's a 2. 8-2 is an out. So Jerry Adair goes out to we'll call it 1-3 or 3-1. So the Red Sox get no runs in the sixth. So we lead off the seventh with Greg Gagne. And he gets a 1-8. 1-8 on Greg Gagne is a triple 1-10 or a double. He gets a double. So Gagne ripping the double off of Gary Bell, only the 4th hit allowed by Bell. And for that reason, they're going to keep him out there still. Tim Laudner is up, and he gets a 1-10, and that's a line out to shortstop, 1 away. Line out to 6. That's 1 out. And that brings up Steve Lombardozzi. And he gets a 1-5, and he gets a ground ball third base A, 2 away. And that brings up Dan Gladden. And Dan Gladden gets a 5-6, and that's a fly ball to right field. So the Twins get no runs in the 7th. I have a feeling that the Twins are showing their true stripes here. This really should not have been a World Series winning team, I don't think, in any universe. But in real life, they were. Okay, so now what have we got? Jerry Adair made the last out, so now we're up to Jose Tartable for his first at bat, coming in and replacing Reggie Smith, who got injured for the game. In the bottom of the 7th, he's batting with a 3-9 ground ball second base. So he gets a ground out 6-3 or 4-3. One away. And that brings up Tony Conigliaro with one out. He gets a 4-7 on Gary Bell, and that's a strikeout. And Gary Bell with the on Baron. Wait, 4-7, 4-7 on Baron. It's still a strikeout even on Baron Gare. So that was Conigliaro. Yeah, he strikes out. Tartable's out, so there's 2 out. And now Yaz is up. Yaz steps in against Baron Gare, and he gets a 2-8, and that's a ground ball shortstop. Ground out, 6-3. So no runs cross the plate. That's going to be it for Baron Gare. He goes 3 in relief of Blyleven. And they will bring in George Frazier after this. And Frazier will come in once they go back out in the field. But right now, Kent Herbeck is up in the 8th, trying to get them at least a run and probably at least 2 to tie the game. But we got a 4-9 on Gary Bell, and that's a single 1-14. And he gets a single. So Herbeck with a single in the 8th. And we don't want to be like Roberts last night and pull the starter too early. So we're going to keep Gary Bell out there with Puckett up and a runner at first and no outs. And he gets a 4-11, which is a ground ball first base. The first baseman is a 1. That's George Scott. And that's a 7, which I think is an error. And it is a 1-base error by George Scott. So now we have 2 runners on. And that's an E3. And we go to George Scott and we give him an error. And now they will take Bell out. He comes out after pitching 7. Yes, because he hasn't gotten an out yet here in the 8th. And the new pitcher for the Red Sox will be Dave Moorhead. Moorhead coming on in relief of Bell. Bernansky up with runners at first and second and no outs. And he gets a 3-7, which is a walk. So Bruno gets a walk, brother Bruno. And Moorhead walks the man. Bases are loaded, no outs. And that's going to bring up Bush. Again, I don't really like the infield in. It's not really, I don't think, a high percentage play, and they have a 2-run lead. So they're going to hope for the double play with Randy Bush. He gets a 2-5, and he strikes out, at least, which is harmless. And Moorhead gets the K. That brings up Gary Gaetti with the bases still loaded and now only 1 out. He gets a 3-10, and that's a ground ball shortstop A, and that's exactly what they were waiting for. 6-4-3, and the Twins blow a prime opportunity right there, and they come away with no runs, even though they were very, very close. And now we go to the bottom of the 8th. Karol Yastrzemski will be batting against the new pitcher, George Frazier. He gets a 4-10, which is a center field X. And their center fielder is Puckett. He's a 1. That's an out. So a fly out for, or not, that wasn't Yastrzemski. That was George Scott. So he flies out to center field. And that brings up Ken Harrelson, Ken the Hawk Harrelson, 1-5. He strikes out. So there's a K for Frazier. And that brings up Rico Petrocelli. And he gets a 6-8 on Frazier, and that's a walk. So Frazier, that's the first guy he's allowed on base. And that brings up Joey Foy. Man at first, 2 outs, 5-11, and that's a strikeout. Joey Foy with the K. And Frazier with the strikeout as the pitcher. They get no runs, but this is it right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. The Twins have got to get 2 runs. They've got to. And they got the bottom of the lineup coming up, so they're going to keep Moorhead out there because he hasn't done anything to deserve being pulled. So Gaetti will be leading off in the 9th, and he gets a 4-10, and that's a shortstop. And the shortstop is a 2, and that's a 6, so he is out. And that was who? That was Gagne. Yeah, that was Gagne. So he gets out, shortstop, 6-3. And that brings up Tim Laudner. They're going to definitely pinch hit for Tim Laudner with 1 out. They're going to go with Roy Smalley as the pinch hitter. So Smalley pinch hitting with 1 out and nobody on and down by 2 runs. They get a 4-12 off of Moorhead, which is a strikeout. So that doesn't help. Moorhead with his 2nd strikeout. And now that brings up Lombardozzi. They're going to have to pinch hit for Lombardozzi because really there's nobody. They're going to pinch hit Gene Larkin for Lombardozzi. And Moorhead is like, yeah, bring it on. Whoever you got, put them up there. Let's get this party over. 5-7 is a double 1-8 single off Moorhead. And that's going to be a double. So Gene Larkin comes in and he rips a double off Moorhead. Hit allowed. And that brings up Dan Gladden with a man at 2nd and 2 down. And he gets a 1-4. That's a home run 1. And it's a double. It's a double that drives in a run, though. So Dan Gladden with a double and an RBI. And now he's at 2nd, and now Herbeck is up. And the Red Sox are going to go to the pen now. So Moorhead only goes 1 2/3. And they need a shutdown reliever right here, and they've got one in Sparky Lyle. So Lyle is going to come in and try to slam the door. They tried to get Moorhead, squeeze him through that inning, but it didn't work. And now Herbeck is up. And he gets a 4-7, which is a walk. So he keeps the game alive. The game is still alive, folks. Lyle with the walk. And he did give up an earned run there. Moorhead did. So, and that brings up Kirby Puckett. I don't think you could want a better situation. This 2 runners on, 2 out. And he gets a 3-5, which is a home run, 1-15. And that's a home run, 3-run home run. Unbelievable. Kirby Puckett. So Kirby Puckett drives himself in, drives that guy in, and drives that guy in. So now they've got a lead. Lyle gives up the hit. He gives up the earned run. And the other 2 runs belong to Moorhead. And now Bernansky is up against Lyle, and he gets a 5-8, which is a strikeout. So Lyle finally does get the man out, but what we have here, folks, is the Twins having scored, what did they get, 4 runs there? So, yeah. Yeah, 4 runs, I guess. Yeah, they did. So the Twins now lead 5-3, and that brings up, well, really, what they're going to go to the bullpen now, because I mean, now they're not going to let that guy, whoever it was, stay out there. Frazier, there's no way they're letting Frazier stay out there. They are bringing in Jeff Reardon. So Reardon coming in for Frazier. And that closes the book on Frazier. He went 1. Did he? 4, 7, 8. Yeah, he went 1. And that brings up Joey Foy, which you would think they would pinch hit for him, maybe? No, they're not going to pinch hit for Foy. They'll let Foy hit off Reardon. He gets a 4-3, which is a walk. So Joey Foy walks in the 9th. Or no, that was Howard. That was Elston Howard who walked. And we would have pinch hit for him, but it's off the pitcher's card, so he walks anyway. And Reardon walks the man, and so the Red Sox are down by 2 here, and they got Jerry Adair up, and they're gonna let Jerry Adair hit. He hit 271. 5-7 is a strikeout on Reardon. So that's 1 away, and that brings up Jose Tartable. 4-7 is a strikeout. That's 2 away. And that brings up Tony Conigliaro. And he gets a 3-10, and he pops out to shortstop, and that's it. Pop out to 6. No runs for the Red Sox there, and they end up losing this game 5-3. The Twins with a dramatic 2-pinch hitter comeback in the 9th. And, man, what a game. I mean, just what a game. So you have to say that the loss goes to Moorhead because the winning run was charged to him. And the win goes to Frazier, and the save to Reardon, who pitched 1 inning. What an incredible game here, folks. The 87 Minnesota Twins beating the 67 Red Sox 5-3. A relatively low-scoring game considering the teams involved. But for right now, it's me, Sportsman Z, Bob Zolke, signing off. See you next time.